Everyone knows the cost of living is going up, but the speed of some increases has welfare bodies worried as more people turn to them asking for a handout. Some are being left with just a few dollars to feed a family. Despite the state government's own budget hitting a wall, the state's Social Inclusion Commissioner is warning the Labor Green government needs to act to reduce the cost of living. Fiona Breen reports on just how fast the cost of living is going up and the consequences.
Electricity, telephone, rent, car registrations, petrol, food, insurance bills. For many people, the clear window envelopes in the letterbox are met with dread.
Recently, when I've just received a $500 hydro bill, which I'm going to have trouble paying, I'm worried that the next notice is going to be a final notice, that they're going to disconnect. So now I have to adjust my budget again.
Amanda Innes, a disability pensioner, is always juggling her finances. Some weeks the figures just don't add up.
I find that I've got $2 or $3 left in my wallet, and it's very hard because you just say to the children, well, eat what's in the cupboard, and it's pretty hard when you've got grown children.
The single mother is one of a growing number of Tasmanians who are struggling with the widening gap between the bill pile and income.
So it's not simply that there's a slow gap, there's a rapid gap emerging, and that's exacerbated by the shocks associated with particular point-in-time bills such as rates and energy bills.
Amanda Innes has had a number of nasty shocks lately. Her telephone's been cut off because of an unpaid bill. She's now struggling to pay a high electricity bill.
Some weeks have been really bad. I have cried a few times, try not to let anybody see it, put on a smiley face because you don't want people to know how bad things are.
Social Inclusion Commissioner Professor David Adams is working on a cost of living strategy. He says the number of Tasmanians in financial crisis is growing.
It's no longer the group that we would traditionally call the poor. It's moving into the group we'd call the working poor, and that's taking the percentage from around 15% of Tasmanians, potentially up to, in some cases, 50% of Tasmanians facing a range of cost increases which they're unable to meet.
Statistics collated by the Social Inclusion Unit are worrying. Demand for emergency relief is up by 70% in 12 months. And the number of first-time clients to emergency relief has risen by a massive 750% in 5 years. At the same time, the cost of basic items continues to rise. In the March quarter, automotive fuel prices were up by 8.8%. Vegetables by 16%, fruit by 14% and pharmaceuticals by 12%. According to economist Paul Blacklow, people on low incomes are hardest hit.
It's typically large, poorer households that are going to be facing the highest rise in the cost of living, and also retired households, or people that spend more time at home, so unemployed and retired households who are using more electricity at home.
And the rises are expected to continue, particularly food and electricity.
They're generally rising throughout the world and will probably continue to rise a little bit faster than the general rate of inflation. Electricity prices are likely to keep increasing quite significantly.
The rising cost of food is a concern for people in the suburb of Clarendon Vale in the state's south. It's worried Michelle Witts so much she started a fruit and veggie co-op to help locals get access to cheaper, healthy food. Run by a group of enthusiastic volunteers from the local neighbourhood centre, it's becoming more and more popular.
What have we got this week?
We got some peas, we got some watermelon, we got some silver beet, we got some celery, and we got some spring onions.
Cool, that'd be good for camping this week.
Okay, hope you enjoy.
Yep, thank you.
Many of those who take advantage of the cheap fruit and veggies are on a government benefit or a low wage.
It's good value and it's fresh and it's worth, like at the $10 you get well and truly get your $10 worth of money.
Food is just one of their cost of living concerns. For everyone, rises in electricity prices have been a big shock.
Electricity prices have gone up around 40% since 2008, and they'll be going up again in July next year.
Tascos and Anglicare are seeking changes to the electricity tariff structure to make it fairer for people on low incomes. They're also calling for a fairer concession system. Welfare agencies believe water bills will be the next big shock. The Water Corporation has flagged a big increase from July next year.
Yes, there is a distinct possibility that they'll go up by a maximum of $100 or 10% next year for residential customers.
And it's still unclear whether tenants will get a bill.
Presumably, we are billing the owner of the property at this point in time, of all rented properties. If they make a decision to pass it on, which they, under the law, we believe can, then they've passed it on.
David Adams believes action to ease the burden of rising living costs is necessary and it needs to be done soon. His wish list for the state budget is echoed by all the welfare agencies. More money for emergency relief, make public housing energy efficient and more access to cheaper, healthier food.
Now is the time to be innovative and creative. The government's taken the first step, which is to look at a strategy and to create a parliamentary secretary, and I would hope that they would then take the next step around a more strategic long-term investment.
Are you confident of getting much out of the budget?
No, I'm not confident at all that in the current circumstances that there will be a significant investment in this space. My advice to the government and the parliament is that these are precisely the times in which they ought to be looking at innovation rather than just looking at cost cutting.
I just can't believe the difference in the warmth in the whole house, actually. Yeah.
Right.
There have been small inroads to help address the rising costs of living, but they're a drop in the ocean.
The backing, I've never realised that backing made so much difference to warmth.
They look good too.
They do. They've made such a huge difference, and fibre costs are way down.
A $20,000 state government grant allowed Sustainable Tasmania to run the Hue Save Money Stay Warm project, retrofitting houses with simple items to make them warmer in winter and reduce heating costs.
We've gone in and sat down with the client and worked out where it is that they're using energy. And then we've actually implemented some of the low-cost retrofit measures, things like curtains, pelmets.
Disability pensioner Anne Kenny was one of the recipients. Before the retrofit, winter was miserable.
So what would you do to keep yourself warm?
Stay in bed. Basically stay in bed and have a heater going in the one room.
According to Sustainable Tasmania, it's made a real difference to people's lives. But the money has dried up.
It's really just a question of where the funding is, and either the councils who have funded us before or the state government who have funded small programs before to inject more money into it so it can be done on a much larger scale.
What happens if there isn't much for low-income people in the budget?
It will simply create and shift risk to other areas of government and to the community sector, and we'll see it play out as increased demand on health services, increased level of child abuse and child welfare risks, increased levels of mental health. We'll see it as absenteeism increasing in the workplace and lower levels of productivity.
We can't survive on the amount that we get.